Welcome all. I am Squeaks, and I'm joined by Frank today.
Hey, everybody.
Yeah, did a little backwards today. I flipped it on everyone. I think they're a little confused hearing me at first introducing you instead of me being introduced. So get used to it, guys. I'm taking over.
Squeaks, you can't mess it up if you're the one starting it off.
All right, so we're here especially today, specifically talking about the wonderful movie that we got to see earlier, and that's Superman. Yeah. So I think we'll go through, just initial reactions first, then we'll dive deep into it, right? So what's your initial reaction as soon as those credits hit?
I was like, man, that was fast and a lot of fun.
Right? Yeah.
I thought it was a real great like summer popcorn movie. What was your initial reaction? And then also to add to that, what was your hype level going in?
Yeah, so I've been really looking forward to this movie for quite some time now. So when we got to see it and people, time zones or whatever, were seeing it and already saying wonderful things about it, it just got me hyped for that night for us to go seeing it.
Yeah.
So the hype level was from high to extreme. Initial reaction as soon as it started was, man, this is like a roller coaster. It is just some of the fight scenes were so fast paced. I love that it just jumped right into Superman. It wasn't no, spaceship falling from another planet.
Yeah.
Anything. It was just, here you go,
Yeah.
But by the movie was over, I thought it was great. I think it's so nice to still have James Gunn's record of just producing amazing superhero
absolutely
movies.
Feels like James Gunn, doesn't it? Like this was like
right, exactly
absolutely feels like his signature.
Yes. And it's almost, I mean, we'll get into it later, but I think it knocks out a lot of other superhero movies comparisons of being like, at least on my, top of all. But yeah, I mean, the light's still there, baby. I mean, with James Gunn helming DC, and I haven't seen it fade yet, so we'll stay high.
And then we got to see it a little early because of the whole Prime deal, which was nice. I hope this is something that they continue to do in the future. But that theater was full still. Like even with this whole like Prime thing, that thing was packed. And one of the things I loved, and it's one of the reasons I love being a geek, is how many Superman shirts we saw walking in.
Right.
It was just cool to see everybody hyped about Superman, the classic, the OG, that was a delight.
Yeah, I was really excited when I saw someone wearing a Green Lantern shirt. I was like, oh man, I wish I would have whipped mine out, but it's time for me to get an updated one. Yeah.
And then going into like the story and the plot, what do you think about the overall plot? Because I'll start with this. Some initial reactions were, it's too many stories going on at once. And I counter that. I say it's not all at once. I say it's too many stories going on consecutively. Not too many, a lot of stories. And the thing I keep coming back to, and you guys have already heard me say it a few times if you follow us online, is this feels like you go into the comic book shop and you pick like a stack of comic books that are consecutive order and just start reading. You don't necessarily know where you're starting off. People will come in and out real fast. Oh, hey, there's Peacemaker here. There's Guy Gardner. And then you exit out. And it's like, I know if I go pick one more issue up, it's going to continue the story. That's how the pacing felt to me, like very quick, fast paced. What did you think?
Yeah, most definitely. And I love your counter because I was thinking that too. And I know we talked about it before the movie, but yeah, I agree. It didn't felt like any of those plots were less important than the other.
Yeah.
And I thought the pace, I guess how they were coming at you, it just seems everyone was fulfilled. Like they were doing their own thing. Like Lois Lane was doing her portion.
Yeah.
Lex Luthor was doing his portion, Superman his, whatever. And I felt like more came together than it felt like something was less important than the other.
Do you think it was easy to follow? And how would new comic book readers, how do you feel like somebody who's like not a comic book reader would embrace this plot?
I don't think it's too bad because Lex Luthor, I don't think it would be too confusing for someone brand new. Okay. Lex Luthor was pretty obvious, right?
Right.
He just wanted to down Superman. He explained his narrative during the interview with the news anchor. And we didn't get to comic booky Lex Luthor right now. We didn't get him in a suit at all, which I think is obviously next level. Lex Luthor is definitely a villain in the DC that needs to stay for some time now, like a Thanos or whatnot. And then now with him being shipped off to prison, wherever he's going. All right. Now we're going to see him. Man, I wish I remember the comic book, whatever, but him helping like them stop Superman for some reason, or him being able to break out, whatever. And he starts putting, there was something. It's been many years now. I don't remember if it was All-Star Superman either, though, if I read that.
He is in prison in All-Star Superman, which actually
Maybe that's what it
Look at
is.
that, got it right
Oh,
here.
look at that. Oh, there it
I had to
is.
bust out the source material for this one because it does feel a lot like when James said, "Oh, it's gonna be like All Star Superman." I'm like, "Oh, that's a little. I don't know how that would work." But then when you watch it, like, "Oh yeah, there's an overarching story," and the way it moves, you're just like, "Boom, boom, 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 boom." But you're still like getting to the point where like there is an overarching thing.
Exactly. Yeah, and that's perfect because I really thought when I was reading All Star Superman, I was like, "Is he gonna die? Start dying already?
Right.
What's going on here?"
And he doesn't die, and that's one of the big key differences I would say from a comic book version, as far as I know. And this is officially spoiler territory, also. If you've been hanging out, hoping when you get into it, oh well. The idea that Superman's parents, Kryptonian parents, sent him here to conquer Earth. Have you ever heard that interpretation of his parents?
No, and I don't know if I'm just like haven't been deep into that, but man, I sure the hell love the message of it because I loved how the like Earth parents were saying like, "Hey, you're not being defined by that. I mean, you believed in this, and this is your story now. I mean, that's been gone. I mean, whatever. And why change your narrative now when it's something that you like hardcore believe in and you thought that was the right message? Have you heard this?
No,
before?
I haven't. But what I really like is it does make that murky line a little bit more defined. There's this thing where for the most part, Clark is inspired by both sets of parents for different ways and different reasons. And I like that this kind of defines it a little bit more as in like, he's been inspired by his parents. And he even said like, that message is the reason I do it. And when he said that at first, I was like, I don't know if I like Superman putting his entire narrative on the message his parents sent him. It should be because of how you grew up, good old Kansas boy. And then by the end of the movie, you're like, oh, it was because he was a good old Kansas boy. He didn't know what he was doing. And oh God, it was such a beautiful moment, frankly. Let's talk about how this happens. In the beginning, we see like he comes in beaten up by the hammer of Bravos or whatever. And he's being healed. And he's like, oh, put on the message for my parents. That keeps me calm or whatever. That comforts me. And it's the parent, and it's Bradley Cooper and his parents from Krypton.
I caught that. I literally was in the movie theater. I was like, man, that looks like Bradley Cooper, but I didn't know Bradley Cooper was really just going to be in here for like a quick
If you're
snippet.
James Gunn, collaborator, you're coming back, baby. That's his whole thing. Rocket Raccoon's right there. And then at the end, it's his Kansas parents that he puts on instead. And it was just like, son of a bitch, that's cool. I really like how we see that progression in that character.
Almost like perfect how the parents ended up not being bad, but like had this wrong thing. Like I like it. Like it's not like it's a change in the comic books that doesn't affect anything. It actually kind of feels like it enhanced
it kind of
a
makes sense too, because if you're Kryptonian with such far advanced technology, and you and me are both Star Trek fans and stuff like that, you would see Earth as like they're nearly past, or like go over there and subjugate the animals on this world. You know what I'm saying? Like you could kind of see where they're coming from. Like, fuck them. Don't get me wrong. But you can kind of see that mentality like, hey, go be a king over there. And that's your best bet.
Yeah. Well, that gets me thinking, what is Zod?
True.
Like, he's Kryptonian, right? Wonder if that's like a narrative for him now to come to planet Earth and be like, hold on, Superman was supposed to do this. He fucked it up. I'm going to do it. And then there's the conflict there now.
Interesting idea. It does change Zod quite a bit to where he's not so against Jor-El. He might be actually kind of an elevated version of him. It does make it quite interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah, and right away I go to Invincible. I'm like, oh, this is kind of the Viltrumites plan.
Yeah.
Which that's funny because every time you talk about Viltrumites, it's always like reflecting back on Superman. And this is like, oh, Superman reflecting back on Viltrumites a little bit. That's kind of fun. That's a little nice. But that being the overarching thing was cool because then that brought in social media as like a cancel culture for Superman. That's how Lex Luthor was able to get to him. And I am such a big fan when you find a way to weaken Superman outside of kryptonite. His PR image, and then also like later on when we see the engineer being able to take out his oxygen. What were your thoughts on that?
Yeah, but it almost feels like I liked it because you're right. There's other ways to get to Superman, and honestly, Lex is doing his thing just to have everybody get on his side. So he was being smart on that portion of it. But hopefully, this isn't a thing where he cares too much because then he's just going to be about himself, which is like, I know you want everybody to love you, but hopefully it just doesn't get into your head too much, and then you're kind of like down because of some what was it, shit man, or
hashtag
something?
super shit.
Yeah,
I loved it. Which we see later on is the bots that are doing that to him purposely.
That was so funny.
When I saw that, I was like, that is some comic book bullshit right there. I love when there's a bunch of monkeys that are bots. Oh my god, hella funny.
And I just love him being like passed out in that cell. He's like, he gets it now.
You can't escape James Gunn comedy. It's all over this movie, but I think it was welcomed. But I think it's just part of this overarching vibe from this version of Superman, David Cornsweet, of him being the most human Superman I've ever seen. That's like, oh, I don't pay attention to social media, and like he practices the one-liners, and he still checks his Instagram when Lois isn't looking, and she still sees him looking at it. So I think that's the rest of us. We try to like, oh, I'm not going to go on TikTok today. Right before bed, I'm an hour scrolling through TikTok. It feels very much. He is that Kansas boy. That's just a human.
Yeah. Sweet. Let's see. Any other like performances that kind of shook you a little bit? I was kind of shocked with Hawkgirl. I guess I just kind of dropped the ball in remembering who was casted for Hawkgirl. So I was like, all right, that wasn't like a shocking performance for me. I'm not saying it's bad or anything.
I thought she was a little underwhelming. I do want to touch on that. I think she was pretty underwhelming, especially compared to.
Okay, good. Yeah,
I think Mr. Terrific blew me away far more than I expected out of him, and even
I didn't think we were going to get that much of him, to be honest.
A character I always thought was like, oh, okay, he's okay. Holy shit, that scene where he goes on to that little military base, damn. Yeah, that was very James Gunn and the Arrow from Guardians of the Galaxy. It was dope.
So I did want to bring that specifically. So I'll get back to my character because now you bring this up. So, okay, first I'll backtrack. Hawkgirl. Yeah, a little underwhelming, right? I'm not understanding the whole, why are we screeching the whole time? And maybe you know more about Hawkgirl than I do, because I know you were all talking about, I need to get a tattoo of her on me. I remember that.
Yeah, absolutely.
But like, is that like a common thing for maybe people that don't know?
I think it is. I can't remember a specific reference to it. Like, and let me clarify. It's not like I'm a big Hawkgirl fan. I'm a big Jim Lee fan, and his version of Hawkgirl is perfect. So it's like, oh, you want that tattoo just because Jim Lee does such a good job with it. But frankly, she has multiple backstories and stuff like that, alien or Egyptian. And I think that was just kind of part of the Hawk, motif. I'll say. I don't think it was ability or anything like that. It wasn't helping.
Yeah. It was. Yeah. It kind of was.
And you're a Green Lantern fan too. I'm gonna throw you off even more. You said you're gonna go back. Oh well.
Yeah, you are.
You're a Green Lantern fan. What'd you think about this version of Guy Gardner, played by Nathan Fillion?
All right. So this was actually what I was bringing up as like characters that kind of like shook me a little bit or surprised me, whatever, caught me off guard.
We'll get to them.
Because, I'm ready to see my Hal Jordan on the screen now, whatever. And I'm looking really forward to this TV series, and fingers crossed that it'll be great. But Guy Gardner actually really impressed me in this movie. And I think a lot of it too is, besides his like comedic relief and whatnot, there was plenty of that throughout the movie, is that he held how Guy Gardner kind of is, and that it's kind of a hothead. And to the point where like those conflicts between him and Superman, I super enjoyed. Like he doesn't give a shit. Like he's talking shit to Superman, and like Guy, come on, man. Superman's gonna
the line he drops,
but he doesn't care. And that's what I love.
Make a move, Big Blue. Yeah. And when he said that, I was like, Guy Gardner, nice.
Yeah. So I mean, that was really impressive, and I love how they kept, because in the trailers, Guy Gardner felt just like that comedic relief. Like he didn't felt whatever. But when you're watching this, and how like the hotheadness, I guess you could say, of Guy Gardner is still there, and it doesn't matter who it's against. And again, even if it's Superman, he's still a little Star-Lord vibe, right?
Did you get that?
Oh, I didn't, but I can see it now. Yeah, I see it.
It might be just because of the James Gunn of it all, but it felt a little bit Star-Lordy.
Yeah,
and in an interview, Nathan Fillion said, when you're desperate and you need somebody and you're calling up for help, you call for a Green Lantern. And then a Green Lantern shows up and it's Guy Gardner. You're like, shit. I mean, I needed a Green Lantern, but this one's Guy Gardner. That's what Nathan Fillion said about the character. I'm like, nailed it. I hope for Hal, or I hope for John. Well, this will save me, but he's going to put mittens on the freaking boss.
That was cool. I mean, shit, he's my shocker, I guess, of this movie. But I wanted to go back to Mr. Terrific, because I didn't at all think he was going to get that much screen time. But the battle scene, essentially what you're saying, that's really James Gunn like, and I loved it to a point, but I didn't think it was enough for me. You know, I really wanted. I'm not the biggest. Okay, so Guardians of the Galaxy 3 is probably my least favorite Guardians.
That is,
and that's like less than 2.
Dude.
I know.
Yes.
I rewatched number 2. I actually enjoyed it
It's
quite a
good,
bit.
yeah.
So that hallway scene in Guardians of the Galaxy 3, like those like type of action scenes that James Gunn's did, where it's this one,
Yeah.
the one
Chaos,
scene
yeah.
that's going ballistic, really. And I was like, okay, when Mr. Terrific was doing his thing, that's the scene, right? But I don't know, it just didn't like. When it was over, I wasn't like, oh, fucking shit. And maybe because the camera was focused on Lois Lane and that was happening in
It
the
was
back.
very
I don't
much
know
her
what it was,
perspective.
you know?
You're right. Yeah.
Yeah. Maybe if it was like a, I don't want to say going back and forth, but that hallway scene specifically was you were up close watching like under the heroes at times,
You're
like
right.
just doing their thing. And maybe that's what it was, but still very cool. Then, and it's James Gunn knows how to bring these characters that like are nobodies to like the big screen to make them popular. I mean, who the fuck really cared about you? I don't
Dude,
care
I'm
who
reading
you are.
Mr.
You're not going to
Terrific.
say Guardians
I'm
of the
grabbing
Galaxy.
some Mr. Terrific stuff because I'm like,
exactly.
I know him from like the Arrow series and stuff like that, but
Okay.
I didn't know him on his own right very well. And man, I am in. I gotta learn more about this character because that was so dope. Yeah.
And that's me with Guardians. I didn't care about the Guardians
Nobody's
and all
reading
that
Guardians.
stuff until
Yeah.
And maybe I had too much space stuff with like the Green Lantern comics, and I was going to get over that stuff. But like nobody was reading Guardians before Guardians.
Yeah.
So yeah, man, that was pretty.
Let's move to the big three here. We'll start with Superman himself, played by David Cornsweet. My big takeaway with him is that he feels the most human of any Superman before.
Yeah.
The line that he tells Lex at the end, where Lex is like, "You're an alien, you know, like you don't deserve to help us, or whatever." And he says that's where you get it wrong every time. And he says something along the lines of like, "I wake up afraid every day, but I just keep going." And it was like, man, that feels so human. Like, how do you pay the bills? How do you? And he's just boom, he just keeps trucking along. I really like this version of Superman. What do you think?
I do very much too, and it matches his attitude. His tone matches the brightness and the colorful of like his suit and the movie itself. And he's the most for the people Superman, like Superman almost should be, right? Like he's the one that should have like, what is it? One of the Henry Cavill ones, right? Was there a Superman statue, right?
Oh,
and then
yeah.
the Joker,
Yeah,
like,
what
messed it all up, whatever.
Right. From Justice League.
If I'm remembering right. But this one is like the one that should be having that statue that's out there just reminding people.
And he will at some point because he's only been Superman for 3 years. So it's like he's still pretty old. But superheroes have been around for 300 years in this version of the DC. So he'll get a statue at some point. There's no doubt. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I think honestly he's the true inspiration of each like Supermans that we've seen before. Maybe even going way back to the original. I mean, maybe that's probably the closest one. Not
he
Henry
feels
Cavill.
like that 90s animated
like,
one is what I keep hearing from people. Do you agree with that statement?
Oh, okay. Yeah, I like that. I like that. Yeah, I agree. Yeah, I mean, I think that's my take. Is this kind of like, would you put this as maybe the best version of Superman?
That's so hard to say. I feel like we're very fortunate to have different kinds of Superman. And I think like the Henry Cavill Superman, if I want just like pure strength, badassery, Henry Cavill wins out. But if I want a Superman that like I pretended to be as a kid, or like this feels like the Superman that died to Doomsday, you know, in the early 90s comics, like this is that Superman. So like we're lucky enough to have multiple versions. This is one of my favorite takes on Superman. I'll definitely say that.
Yeah. I think so. Yeah, because Henry Cavill just seemed I mean, I don't know. I guess he's protecting, but maybe like standoffish.
Too dark. Yeah, it was, yeah. I agree with that.
Yeah, that's what it is. Yeah, and this one is just
What about Lois Lane, his counter or partner?
Yeah. So, God, I just said her name.
Rachel Brosnahan.
Pull it up again.
I know. As soon as that casting, you were the first person I thought of when I heard that casting. I was like, Squeaks is watching this movie.
Oh my goodness. Yeah, I'm in love with her in anything she does. But I thought Lois Lane I love how a reporter she was.
Agreed.
Right. That's my favorite part of it. Even like the part where, and spoiler, right? So anyway, we already said it, that she's interviewing Superman as Superman, and she knew how to separate the girlfriend aspect of it. Like none of that felt like 5 seconds ago when they were making out in the kitchen. Lucky. But
I know she's so
like making out in the kitchen. And then oh shoot. None of that felt like, you know, the relationship was 100% thrown out of the way. It was all business.
Those penetrating questions too. She knew what to tip him off. She's a great reporter.
She had to remind him. Yeah, she had to remind him on Clark Kent that I'm interviewing Superman right now. Like
the way she kept saying that too is like, what do you think, Superman? She kept dropping the Superman harder and harder. And like stay in Superman. And he literally like tore down his defenses. Yeah, it was great.
Yeah. One thing that I will say, and I think this is just a decision, not so much more on the Lois Lane, but I'm not the biggest fan of these nobody type people, not superheroes or whatever, being that much into the fight and using like the space and stuff like that. I don't like that too much. But I will say, okay, for example, Blue Beetle. I did not like the family like being on the spaceship doing that thing. I mean, that was the same thing. Not a fan of that at all. I think it's kind of ridiculous. It's like you're just a normal person that I'm just gonna walk in here and like do stuff now. Get the fuck out of here. You're not a part of it. But I will say I didn't think this was as bad as the Blue Beetle one.
Are you talking about how like the Daily Planet crew was on the ship moment and stuff like that?
Yeah.
I liked it just because Perry, for some reason,
on that.
like Perry was so background character, but then suddenly when like shit starts with the fan and Perry starts becoming the editor in chief, like that mode started kicking in. I was like, "Atta boy, this is the reason I pick up the Daily Planet in the morning is because of this attitude." You know? Yeah. It was cool. Yeah.
Yeah, and I mean, I don't think like nothing was wrong with the character 100%. I Perry was cool and whatnot. His little behind, closed doors like relationship or whatever. And then, I'll get back to that. But like, I just don't like, them helping out on a level that's non-human.
Yeah, they didn't. They didn't seem like they were like essential to the fight. I'll say they were. But we were seeing like that side. A side that Lex Luthor had used earlier in the film. PR and news to bring down Superman, they were the counter to that version of the fight. So there was like a
and maybe that's what made it better because they, like you said, they weren't in the fight instead of like Blue Beetle where you're having this like just random family try to help out the son or whatever.
Forced, right?
So that's probably what it is and why I like it better. But I did like Perry. He's like whatever about this female that he's backdooring Lex Luthor's girlfriend. But
you're
then
talking
at
about
the
Jimmy
end,
Olsen.
where
Jimmy Olsen, not Perry.
Jimmy Olsen, sorry. Jimmy Olsen, when he hugs the girlfriend at the end, and they're like, we could be together forever. And then it just felt like, you know what? He had this like relief almost because it's like this girl is doing like one, she's kind of a baddie, but two, like she's like giving you it all, like her
God, the emojis,
doing everything for you, and it's like at that point, like maybe she's not as bad and like stick around.
I just love this Playboy version of Jimmy where it was like, God, I'm trying to be a reporter and these women won't leave me alone. I was like, oh, I like this version of Jimmy. And of course, as Rights Gemstone fans too, it's nice to help get love some guilt. But yeah, it was. I just liked, and he wasn't useless. He's the one that had information, like because of his report. Yeah, it shows the superpowers of being good at your job. It was cool.
Yeah. No, it was cool. Very cool.
And then lastly, Lex Luthor, the last piece of this human. What did you think of Nicholas Hoult's version of Lex?
Much better than I initially thought it was going to be because I felt like he brought that hate energy and I was like, man, like every ounce of him like is just hates Superman to where we're going to extreme where like when he has that, when they're in the, what is that dimension?
The pocket dimension.
No, the pocket dimension. And he brings that random like person from the streets, ties him up and has the gun to him.
Yes.
And just like, and what I loved about it was like, it wasn't whole, I'm going to play games with Superman and like shoot him and okay, he'll live. No, he literally shoots him within 1 minute of the interview, like really of the interrogation.
That was the moment where it was like, they're not going to let him be a redemptive guy, good guy. No, he's just always going to be a villain. And it was like, that feels good because we know in the MCU that son of a bitch would have a redemption arc soon.
So I felt like he did a phenomenal at bringing the hate. So, and the reason why I was skeptical at first was that I've said it before, and it's kind of like Kingpin, that I wanted a Lex Luthor that was a little bigger, broader and whatnot. So someone that when he walks in the room, he commands the room. Like everybody's like, oh shit, like watch out, Lex is here. I don't know if that was brought really because maybe just the way he was just always, I don't know, like screen presence was just there anyway. Whatever, like I didn't felt like
I got more of a Gene Hackman vibe.
Maybe the fear in the control room. Yeah, right. But he definitely brought everything else about Lex Luthor, and that was his hate for Superman, and he did it very well. The
multiple layers, the two layers specifically. That top layer of like rich, smart, like the mask he's putting on. Rich, smart, I'm doing this because I want to secure half of this country. And then that layer that's right below that, we're just like, I want to see Superman buried into the earth so deep. Like, and the fact that he kept cracking down to that bottom layer. And even that line, which I felt like they should have expanded upon, and that was a missed opportunity, where he's telling Superman, like, I wasn't stopping you so that I could attack Jonah Poor. I was attacking Jonah Poor to stop you. And it was like, he said that line. Basically, that's Lex Luthor right there. He will do any kind of manipulation in the world or whatever. He's so good. Yeah. It's to stop Superman. It's not to do this or that. And I like that. That's the billionaire using all his billions for all the wrong reasons. And it's, that's a villain. That's good. It's fun. Yeah.
Yeah, so many levels to how he wants to just get rid of Superman. That was, and we said it already, where it's either like social media, he's on the news being interviewed, he's learning all of Superman's moves to counter him when he's like, controlling the fake Superman, essentially.
Oh, yeah.
Because at first I was a little thrown off, like you're telling this robot, like all these like codes or whatever. But then it's like, okay, cool, you get that because he studied Superman. He this control room knows their role in pressing specific buttons or whatnot. So I love how Superman is essentially taking over his life.
Yes.
And he'll never be like satisfied until he's actually gone. So I think it just like, again, with him being shipped away, locked up, whatever, and his hatred that we will get, it just makes sense now to have Lex Luthor in the Lex Luthor armor suit. Like, because the desperation is there.
And the Legion of Evil seems so inevitable now, right? Like he's just going to start like raking in people to start taking down heroes. Anybody who helps Superman.
Yeah.
Let's just touch briefly on his two henchmen. The engineer, which I thought they did a better job of creating a character I cared about. The engineer I didn't care about beforehand. And she's coming up in the Authority movie too, so that's cool that we have kind of this whole side thing. And the other one is Ultraman, which I felt was extremely underutilized and underdeveloped. I almost to the point where I feel like it might have been a mistake to use specifically Ultraman, being that in the comics, he's from Earth 2 or Earth 3. He's from another Earth, and he's he's got the crime syndicate. He's got his own run. He's got a good comic book series. And so I thought, just to kind of throw him away here as a waste, I brought this up to Thomas. The way he's so stupid, and a clone, I have a feeling that it's not that he's going to stay Ultraman. I think he's going to return as Bizarro.
Oh man. Wow. I haven't even seen that in a crazy long time, but it makes sense though, right? Because he's kind of brain dead anyway, right?
Yeah, and he's
controlled or whatever. So I wonder if he lost the control, right?
And now he's by himself, so he's kind of a simpleton. And if especially if he thinks of the entire message from Krypton, because that's one of the things that Bizarro wants to do is like create Metropolis here on Earth, and that's what the parents were telling Superman to do. So if he's like, I'll use the whole message, Yeah.
Oh man, praise you on definitely putting that together, because I wouldn't have thought that far. I would have just thought it was over. But man, yeah, if you had, again, you lost like essentially your mind. Right. I mean, because you're being controlled the whole time. That's all gone. You're probably, coming back from this black hole thing, whatever. And I could definitely see that.
Which will mess up his looks. That black hole mess up his looks, so he comes back looking like that.
Yeah, that'd be badass. Yeah. Man, that'd be kind of cool if we could see like what I was saying earlier, right? With Zod doing what Superman couldn't do. And then you have this Bizarro conflict at the same time. I mean, that put multiple pretty interesting villains in one movie.
Yeah.
Pretty badass.
Lobo in there too.
I don't think he would sit. Yeah, right. Yeah, shit. That's cool, actually. I like that. Yeah. Damn, caught me off guard with that one.
Any thoughts on Ultraman or Engineer before we get into cinematography?
No, because it took me a while to connect the Ultraman link.
I wanted to whisper it to you so bad. In the middle of right when I was like, Ultraman, Ultraman for the comic books, right? We all know who the fuck's behind that mask. I wanted to, because there was like, could it be Henry Cavill? But I think that would have been disrespectful.
Oh, but that would have been.
It would have been a shocker, man. Yeah.
Yeah, you know what? That's funny that you said that, because I think at one point, it was kind of early too, that I remember like leaning over and looking at you. I don't remember what it was now. And I wanted to say something to you. I'm like, fuck, I need John to move.
Dude, I thought that too. It was like, me and you would be whispering different things this entire time. Because like, there's one part where like they're trying to play Ultraman down as like, oh, he's just strong. But then he uses his laser eyes at one point. I was like, boom, it just gave it away,
man. Yeah, I wish. Yeah, I should have been sitting next to you, because I didn't really connect that till so much later. And
it was good stuff.
Yeah, it was good. Yeah.
Let's get it.
It was cool. I wish it would have been more of a copy though, but I like the secret, right?
Yeah.
Like I think it was like it was so subtle, the Ultraman, like the silver around him, like kind of shaping of the U.
Yeah. Which is direct to comic book accurate, by the way. That U is 100%. Ultraman from the comic. That's why I was like,
Oh yeah,
definitely him.
oh yeah,
Yeah. That's sick.
yeah. It would have been. I mean, I guess it's a good, secret in a way at the same time, because I was thinking like, it would have been cool to kind of see something that's more like connected faster for me. That's just me being slow, I guess. But yeah, I mean, it was a interesting surprise.
Yeah, I just felt like he's a big enough character. He should have got his own movie, not be thrown away in this one. So I think he's going to be brought back.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, because but maybe he'll be brought back and it'll be part of the entire Crime Syndicate. There's the evil Batman, evil Wonder Woman. You know, there could be that too. So
yeah. Okay, and that'd be nice because I think there's so many like villains that would want to be seen that maybe it'd be too early to kind of see Ultraman come back. But yeah, I can see it as a wave of
going back to what we're talking about with like the pacing of this really does feel like a stack of comic books just randomly in the 1,000 plus issues of Superman. So like, he'll be back in the future and he was probably popped up somewhere in the past. Like it's just, a thing.
Yeah.
All right, let's go to that cinematography. So this movie stinks of James Gunn. If you're not a James Gunn fan, you might want to skip this one because it very much feels like that.
Yeah.
One of the things I leaned over to Jonathan was talking to him about, I was like, every time they show Superman in a hero pose or when he's giving a speech, the sun is directly behind him. And I thought that was such a subtle touch to show that he's the light. And I was like, I freaking love that move.
Damn, look at those eyes. Not mine, yours. I mean, I have nothing to say. I didn't even catch anything like that. That's deep. Okay, I'm surface level.
The more intense the sun was, the more intense the speech was. So specifically, like when he's giving Lex that final like punch in the face speech, like the sun was literally doing sun flares, like there are the lens flares that you see from like Star Trek movies.
I do remember that.
So it was like literally like it's overwhelming now at this point.
Yeah, that's deep. That's deep.
What did you think about the movie?
I thought I love everything about how this movie looked, really. When it comes to the most evil of the evil, it's super dark. And like you said, when we're on surface level and we're seeing Superman being a hero, it's all light, right? So Pocket Portal, right? It's all disastrous, right? And there's it kept its tones. We're gonna branch out the CGI a little bit. I think a lot of people were hating on the CGI. I didn't think it was horrible. I think there's some times there was definitely one of those was the big monster that came in, but when he lifted his foot to save the dog, I didn't mind the monster, but I cared about the dog that he saved. Because at one point it looked real, but when he kind of like used his wind or whatever to kind of push it away,
notice it was a little bit. Okay.
Yeah, I was like, whatever. And I think but I didn't have a crazy problem with the CGI.
I think the worst of CGI because he was so often used, and my God, did he steal my freaking heart, was Krypto. I think that the CGI for Krypto was lackluster, but that's mostly because he was on screen so much. So you got to really analyze that. But man, I fell in love with that dog. And so much so, like when Engineer attacked him and like was like killing Krypto, I was like, murder that bitch. But take your hands off Krypto. But that little surprise ending, which we'll get to later on, was like, that's freaking dope. Do
you think, I know what you're talking about. Do you think that maybe they should have used maybe in some of the still scenes, like an actual dog that it would have been too hard maybe to find like a dog that looked exactly like Krypto. But like when Superman's laying in the bed towards the end, to recover and the dog's just kind of resting there. Maybe the dog on Lois Lane when Lois Lane was on the ship trying to steer. Would that maybe have helped a little bit? Kind of like a Jurassic Park thing, you think?
I think the problem with that idea is that if you go back and forth too much, it makes it more noticeable. So if you just keep it as CGI and then like we just buy it early on, like it feels like it's almost just like an animated character that's in the movie with them. I think that's easier to swallow than it is to see that go back and forth, maybe. That scene where he's sitting in Lois Lane's lap, which is like literally my everyday thing. My dog always wants to like be carried while I'm doing stuff on the computer. Matter of fact, was just doing that about an hour ago. I thought like, that's so real. That dog is being so real right now that it would have been easy just to have a regular dog in her lap. But
Yeah, some of these visuals though with the monsters though, just switch it a little bit. I thought it looked really good. I thought the big one that we're talking about, whatever that is,
they literally call him a kaiju.
Just seemed detailed.
Yeah, I thought he looks fine.
Yeah, right.
I thought it was just good enough to be satisfactory. Like I was fine with it. It wasn't gonna break the bank. It was very much something like if I was a kid, I could probably draw that. Yeah, it was cool.
Yeah. There's even like a background visuals and one of my kind of like favorite scenes too is the big alien fight scene in the back while Lois and Clark are just talking to each other casually, you know? And you know what? And it's kind of moving to, I don't know, feels in the movie. I just love how it's like, you know what? We've been in Metropolis forever. There's been a bunch of shit that's always happening. Whatever. This is normal.
And the way he says like, is a dimensional. Thank God. Like a dimensional imp. Like when you hear the term
Yeah.
imp, you think of something small. So like, what's the big version of that, you know? And then you just see, and I like, because Guy Gardner is so funny in this movie, where the only real effect you see is just his green lasers just like randomly poking it from different directions. And you're just like, what is Guy doing?
Yeah.
And then eventually it's him that beats it because it puts a net on it and then just like drags it out to space. And I was like, that is a very Green Lantern move right there.
But yeah, I thought like visually, like everything from background to what the focus was of the movie, you got super deep with it, which I wasn't thinking like that, but I thought it looked wonderful, colorful, bright, beautiful.
One of the
James Gunn.
So looking over the abilities, I think all the abilities look solid. I think the flight, I think if you were familiar with Gunn's work in flying, you'd see like, okay, yeah, that's Adam Warlock flying, you know, that's fine. That's just his style. But I was really worried about Green Lantern's constructs. What are your thoughts on that, being a Green Lantern fanboy?
Ooh, why were you worried though?
Because of Ryan Reynolds.
Okay, why were you forcing it?
I didn't want that. I was like, how is this going to look? So I'm wondering, what did you think they improved on that? What were your thoughts on
that? Most like looks or ideas?
Both.
Just both. Okay. So looks wise, I thought it was totally fine. I didn't have no problem with it. I mean, it looked like, you know, the hollow grain like it should have been, and then some of it was very detailed, like the mittens, like you said. They had the line, they had the stitching in the mittens and stuff like that. So I thought they looked very good. The hands that were being blasted at the with the tanks, that each one was different, but it looked like a solid hand. Like none of it looked like cheap Xbox graphics or something like that. You know, like original Xbox graphics, anything. It looked very detailed. But what I like about it was it's very tailored to Guy Gardner, and what I think what we're gonna see, what we're gonna see is different constructs for each Green Lantern, and I'm like, fuck yes, because they're gonna be tailored to personalities. So while, you know, like Green Gardner's, you know, throwing the middle finger up of a hand coming up to knock over a tank, maybe Hal Jordan will essentially be, you know, like
giant
another
sword or a big ass blast,
a missile or something more serious, right? So that's something to look forward to, because it does feel like we're not tailoring to just a generic Green Lantern, but to the personality of that.
And I think the best two Green Lanterns, for examples of that, we're going to get one of them very soon, John Stewart, who's very technical. He's the engineer. He knows blueprints and stuff like that. So his are like functioning machine guns and things like that. Like they're very dope. And then of course we're all waiting for Kyle Rayner when they're like a mecha suit, and they're all anime references, and you're gonna see like One Piece ship in the background that's made out of Green Lantern shit. Like it's gonna be dope. So as long as they stick to that, which I think, you know, this is council of comic book writers, Tom King's on it, and as long as they keep giving their input, we're gonna see that from these Green Lanterns.
Yeah. And even like I think the first construct that we saw was, I don't know if it was the mittens was the first one or the lock on the creature's mouth.
Oh yeah, that was pretty early on.
I just thought that was kind of funny too, because it was kind of just like, you're just a pet, you know, to me, and we got to muzzle you essentially. So the attitude was there. I loved it.
Even when he did that too, like the lock, but the mittens is a really good example where he's like, "Hey, did you guys see I made mittens?" They're like, "Hey, we're fucking killing this thing." That was fun.
Yeah. How'd you feel of Green Lanterns flying though? So it felt correct, but also felt, you're on some strings, you know?
Yeah.
Like when it was those close ups where he's just kind of standing in the air talking.
I agree. I think there was a little bit of that going on for Mr. Terrific as well. His flying is so different that it's a little jarring because he's sitting in a chair.
Yeah.
And so it was just kind of obvious when they were flying. There were some things that were like, this is going to take some time to get used to this style. You know?
Yeah, but he had the poses when he was doing those close up flying, whatever, and just standing there talking. And I was like, okay, because I mean, I see it, but also but then I praise it at the same time because it's a lot different than Superman's flying and how he poses and stands and talks and whatever. So I don't know. I guess it's maybe just, hey, you know, they dug into how, you know, these Green Lanterns, like, I don't know, act, I guess, when they're in the air.
And the last thing visually that I wanted to make sure to bring up is Superman's different stages of fights. They're all cool. Like when he's fighting the hammer, like it was very much like what you'd expect out of Henry Cavill's Superman. But that final one where he's fighting against the endless bots sent by Lex, and
my god,
I just kept coming back to, it's a statement I made, you know, like a month ago, or whatever. Like, this is the Superman I pretended to be when I was running around the house as a kid. When you were just like lasering your brothers, or I just did Cyclops, but like lasering your brothers or whatever, you know what I'm saying? It was just like, damn, that's how I'd want to be. If I would want to be like that, that's so fun.
Yeah. And I think that scene was so perfect because when he was just spinning around lasering everyone.
Sick.
fuck? Now you're showing the invincibility of
Yes.
Superman, right? Like, yeah, we've seen him get knocked down throughout the movie and
Yeah.
stuff, but we all like, dude, this is still Superman.
Right.
And at some times, I need to see Superman just do like, oh, this is who I'm facing, bang, 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 and you're done.
He's
you know,
he's the hero with
Superman.
cheat codes. You have to show those cheat codes work. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. And so when that was happening, I was like, man, I felt like throughout the movie, we're getting upgraded.
Yes. Yeah.
You know, like which I felt like we shouldn't be like, because this is like what you said, year 3 Superman. So he should kind of, have a little bit, whatever. I shouldn't see him progress through this like one movie, but it was sweet to see some battles where he was just handle it without any issues. And that one scene was badass. And we didn't even get laser eyes until much later. In the movie,
right. Yeah. I was kind of like, this is coming up pretty soon.
Yeah.
And Frost Breath was used more than laser eyes, which is something that's usually not represented well, but he used that quite a bit. So yeah, it was cool. Yeah. Themes and tones. So we kind of went a lot of this with the story and stuff like that. This tone, very different than any other DC movie I think we've gotten, especially out of like the Snyderverse. Not that they're bad or good, but in comparison, I think this is a lot lighter and brighter. James Gunn came out and said yesterday that each movie in the DCU will have a different tone. Can you see this Superman existing in the same world as Batman?
That's going to be tough. But I think that's what's going to make the combination great, right? Yeah. Is having those differences coming together and then having like the mindsets be different as well when it comes to handling maybe a certain individual. So I don't know if I see it, but I know that it's just going to have to be done. We're going to have to get that Justice League. James Gunn is building towards that. And I think it's going to be cool to see these heroes on the Justice League table, right? And then you have your dark tones on the other side debating against like your lighter tones. Yeah. And you know what? To see a bright Superman in Gotham is what fucking we've been wanting. I feel like
it makes him stand out more too. You're right. And even the opposite side of that too. Like when you take this Gotham and suddenly you throw, this Metropolis, and you throw the Dark Knight up on a tower somewhere. It's going to be a shock to the system for everybody in the city. Yeah. Yeah. It's going to, and it goes both ways, right? So you got your darkness in the Gotham City and they're going to see this bright Superman and they're going to be shit scared and it's going to be easily recognizable. Same thing. You go to Metropolis, you have this Batman on a roof, like you said, or whatever. And they're going to be like, oh, they're going to easily recognize and be feared by whatever. So one's more like, hopeful looking in a sewer rat city. Yeah. And one's like this dark coming to something you're
that's
afraid of shadows that you weren't before.
So shining.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. That's perfect. Yeah.
And I haven't thought this since the 90s cartoons, bringing up some people's opinions on this. When I think about with Batman on this immediately, I was like, I can't wait for Bruce Wayne to come fuck up Lex Luthor. I want some I want him to come in like Lex thinks he has something unlocked and all of a sudden, I got outbid. What? Oh, Mr. Wayne. That's going to be fun.
And that, and I think I'm more excited to see like the Bruce Wayne versus Lex Luthor than I am the Batman versus Lex Luthor. I love to see him. I kind of think back at the Christian Bale where he's having that fancy party and then he gets like the kind of ruin.
Yeah.
Just like have those battles, even like the Ben Affleck's Batman when he's in that party and he sees Wonder Woman, kind of like those like suit and tie type things. And I guess you could say outclassing each other. Yeah. But we'll see how that comes now. If Lex Luthor's this current state of Lex Luthor, like how's he gonna get to that again? You know?
I mean, I think there's a world where he can be redeemed. I think in this world he'll find a way to be redeemed. He'll find some PR thing that's like, oh, I did it for your guys' freedom or some nonsense. He'll find a way. Or if not, then screw it. I mean, I could see this story progressing maybe 6-7 years from now, where Lex has to join the Justice League for a fight that's against Brainiac. We've seen that in the comic books plenty of times, and of course, Superman's not a big fan of it, but it happens, and because he has the suit and stuff like that, or he replaces Superman for a little bit. There's all kinds of crazy stories, and this is the first time that seems possible. This super comic book feeling world that seems possible to me.
Okay. Yeah. Nice.
We got a couple more things I want to cover. Was there any favorite scenes or twists for you? And I'll start off with Metamorpho was a twist for me because I thought he was going to be a one and done character. I knew he was going to be used for Kryptonite, but that character actually showing real emotion, like I didn't do anything when he died, when that one guy died. Yeah. The whole like joining the Justice gang. I thought he was a funner character than I expected. I thought he was going to be like almost a cameo.
Oh man, that's tough. I know. I maybe okay. So I'm not. You were talking about Krypto, right? And I think he kind of rubbed on me a little bit more than I expected. I don't really care about the Krypto. I don't really care about animals, period. But I think I think it was kind of funny to see him do his last scene with Lex Luthor, and that he's still like a reliable source.
Yeah.
You know, that he's not just like something that kind of is more havoc or hard to deal with.
Right.
You know. And like, because you see like, oh, Krypto, get down, stop, you know, messing with the cows, you know, like that statement that he said he's probably just killing them or whatever. Yeah. So it seems like, okay, you know, this dog can be chaotic at times, but he, you know, saves it. So like when he helps knock Ultraman off of Superman, comes in for Lex Luthor. So he's very useful, and it didn't seem like he was just a mess.
Yeah.
Now I'm going to say Supergirl. That was a surprise.
I loved it.
Getting that little cameo. That was my end credit scene.
Yes,
okay. So, and I think we'll talk about end credits in a second. That's the end credit scene. I totally forgot. I had to look back at John and said, like, did they cast someone for Supergirl?
They're already filming it.
And then when I had to look it up, I was like, oh my gosh, that's right. I like totally forgot because with all the hype of Superman, I kind of just forgot about anything that was other than that. And I was just looking her up. I forgot her name. Oh my God. I loved her in Game of Thrones. So I'm like, give me more of her. But I was not catching that kind of Supergirl, where it was like this
party girl
when she came in sloppy and whatever. Like, who the hell is this? Like, and then when the Superman says the statement of like, oh, she likes to go to other planets and party with red suns because they don't heal as well, she get drunk. I was like, oh man, this one might be pretty wild. Supergirl, this movie.
Girl of Tomorrow. I have the comic book run. It's on my list, and so it's he's adapting that comic book, where basically she goes to another planet, somebody asks for her help, she gets stuck in. So it's gonna be like this like spacefaring thing. That's gonna be her thing. And it's just like, that's gonna be fun. She'll come back to Earth to help out when she needs to, but other than that, she's gonna be out there doing Thor stuff. You know, that'll be a blast.
Yeah, and I think that might be like a generic story, like we've seen probably so many times, where like, hey, I'm just a party person, whatever, and now being called upon, like I ain't gonna help you type thing or whatever. Then realize the importance of it, and then she's having to come face to face with herself, and like, okay, I have these powers for her and need to be responsible. So I feel like, what can they do that can
Lobo will be in that world, so that's
fresh?
Gonna make it a little fresh, because then you're gonna have this biker dude, is bad guy and sometimes good guy.
Yeah, I wonder if he's partying with her sometimes.
Could be, absolutely could be. Jason Momoa partying, that'd be dope. And then I especially like the whole thing where it's like, the reason the dog's crazy is because she doesn't do a good job of training it. Like the dog starts roughhousing with her, and she starts roughhousing back, and Superman's like, that's why he acts like that, because you got to show discipline.
Yeah.
And I was just like, I loved it.
Yeah. That's cool. All
right, let's get your score.
But speaking of end credits.
Let's get those end credits, which were kind of a waste of time, I thought myself.
It was we could have just left. Yeah, the end credits, unfortunately, spoiler, was nothing to foresee what's going to come on in the future. They were just funny things. This first one,
it was just Krypto and him sitting on the
wallpaper on a desktop.
Yeah, it was just him and Krypto sitting. That was it.
Yeah, and nothing like, I was trying to like the background, like, okay, like, Earth moving or whatever. Nothing. So what the fuck was that about? But the last one, okay, I guess should have been the first one, and then the Supergirl should have been at the very end. But I thought that was kind of funny. The Mr. Terrific not putting it perfectly together, and Superman's just kind of like staring at it. And
which does show like how they fix up all the damage they do. Which this Superman, compared to other Supermen, does try to avoid collateral damage, which was kind of nice to see that he cared. Mm-hmm. But then, there's a way they fix it. Mr. Terrific is fixing things up again afterwards. That was cool to see that there's something more of the world.
Yeah. So scores now, huh?
What do you think? What's your score?
Oh man. So I am like thinking about like every superhero movie lately, right? And then like what's topping the charts right now. And DC is just, with this refresh, with this James Gunn helming it all, the new Kevin Feige or whatever, the DC, and how much this one compares to just all other superhero movies. And I think I'm getting to the point where like, do I need to rewatch Endgame? Because I think this might be better than Endgame. I'm thinking 9 out of 10, dude. 9 out of 10. And I didn't give it a 10 because of, just little, nothing too important. It's more maybe like I said, I'm not a big fan of like these normal people doing like getting involved too much, but they weren't too involved. But like the pacing of it was just like, okay, something happens, we're getting the real Superman, and then bang, we're in action again. It was action, and it's like, man. So it's almost like if I had to rewatch this again, the 10's not out of the question.
Not out of the question, and
it does not deserve an 8.
More
better.
rewatchable than any of the past Superman stuff I've seen in a long time. Very rewatchable.
So I might come back to you later and be like, hey, I just bought Superman, rewatched it, and give it a 10. But right now, 9.
I have it at an 8, but I really struggled doing that. I really wanted to give it a 9, but my thing was like the pacing was so fast that I'd like to hear from somebody who doesn't know comic books at all and see what they think about it. Because to me, this really felt like one issue after another issue, you know? And I think we're kind of bred for that. I think we're grown up on that pace. I wonder what others want to see.
Yeah, it was a real roller coaster. Like I told you when we left the thing, like the fight scenes and stuff were just so fast. Those are like twirling and just, it was in your face, you know?
It really felt like
it was a fun ride for sure.
This is an excellent movie. I can't suggest it enough. I think it's totally worth theaters. I would even say IMAX if you can, which I'm going to go. I'm watching Fantastic Four on IMAX. I know you can't do it, but I'll be
nice.
But yeah, if you can see this in IMAX, seeing that kaiju in IMAX and stuff like that, I think that's a must watch again. Yeah.
Heck yeah. Yeah.
All right, everybody. Thank you very much for joining us for this all Superman episode. We'll have a normal Geek Freaks for you next week, but we just had to celebrate the Man of Steel.
Hold on, that was supposed to be me.
Oh yeah, here we go.
Thank you everybody for joining us at Geek Freaks. Listen to our Superman conversation. We'll see you in the next episode.
All right, guys. Bye.